also suggest that you use headphones if you would like to hear the gentle mic brushing. Alright, so before I begin tonight's case, I want to thank everybody out there for 10,000 subscribers. I am so grateful to have reached this important milestone. I really never thought that it would happen so quickly, and I have you guys to thank for that. I considered making like a special video to celebrate it, but I do have my main channel, my ASMR Addiction, which has plenty of Q&As and get to know me's. So I am gonna link the latest one right here in case you are interested, and you can check that out. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get into today's case, because I, for one, don't really like long intros, and this intro has been a bit long, so here we go. This case brings us back to Australia again. This is the absolutely horrifying and super bizarre case of Jessica Camilleri. This is so sad. I don't even know how to put it into words, but in July of 2019, she brutally, and when I say brutally, I mean brutally, but I'm not going to get gory in this video, so don't worry. She brutally murdered her own mother. Alright, so let's talk about her background. So she grew up in a town called St. Clair, Australia, which is not far from Sydney. She was born on October 12th, 1993. She had two parents, Rita and Vince, and a slightly older sister named Christy. Now, pretty early on in Jessica's life, her parents noticed that she was different. She was not meeting the typical milestones. She was delayed at walking, talking, and coordination. And her IQ was found to be around 55 or 60. Just for reference, 100 is the average IQ for the average person. So hers was rather low, very low. And when she went to school, she was bullied a lot. And the bullying triggered violent behavior on her part. There were many occasions narcissistic features. She is egocentric and self-centered, demands attention, and gets upset when attention is not focused on her. She has a large sense of entitlement and unreasonable expectations of a favorable treatment. She sees herself as being very important due to her disability and cannot see other people's needs. So, that is a lot. I mean, for one person, seriously. I mean, I have to say, I feel terribly for her that she obviously must have been born with, the tendency for all of these things to present themselves as she grew up. But in no way is that going to excuse her behavior. So, here we go. Now, she was, as I said, sent to a vocational school, but she was thrown out of there as well for the same sort of violent outbursts. So, that was the end of her schooling. She's around 16, right? And now she is pretty much stuck at home because she can't do things really outside the home. She can't shop. She can't take public transportation. She can't drive. She can't get a job, so she stays at home. She stays in her bedroom most of the time. And she was obsessed. Don't forget she had OCD. She was obsessed with 2 movies. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which she owned 8 copies of on DVD. And Jeepers Creepers, she owned 5 copies. Now, that's a horror movie as well, if you've never heard of it. I never had. So she used to sit and watch these 2 movies and rewind her favorite parts, which were always like the most gory, violent parts, and rewatch those parts over and over and over. And her sister was concerned with her watching this kind of stuff so much and took away the DVDs. But can you imagine the outburst that caused? Yeah, it was brutal. So her mother wound up giving these DVDs back to her to quiet her down. Now, around that time as well, she got into a physical altercation with her father. And they sent her to go live with her grandma. Why do you think the grandma can take care of her? Anyway, while she was staying with her grandma, she physically attacked her aunt. I don't know if the aunt lived there or she was visiting or what, but she attacked the aunt, and that was it. Back home you go, Jessica. Back to her parents. Now, for whatever reason, the parents' marriage was falling apart. I can't say if it was due to the frustration of having to take care of Jessica or what. I mean, that must have played a role, you would think. So, the father moved out after they divorced, and he did say he was very worried about leaving his wife there to care for Jessica without him. But the mother had always been very insistent on, keeping her out of institutions and, taking care of her. Even though Jessica had So that day, the neighbor comes over and asks Rita if she can take her to the doctor because she is having chest pain. So they all go in the car together, and Jessica starts complaining about the 4-year-old grandson, saying to her mother, I don't know why you always agree to take him, and refers to him again in that bad word. And Rita says to her, finally she says to her, stop calling him that. And they go to the doctor. They're waiting in the waiting room, and Jessica thinks that a man is staring at her. He might have been, I don't know. But anyway, she just starts acting out, flailing her arms all over the place. I would imagine if it was a woman, she probably would have pulled his hair. I'm just throwing that in there, but anyway, it's a man. She doesn't tend to pull men's hair. Is it because they don't have long hair, or is it just that she is more, resentful of women? I don't know. Anyway, so they leave there, and they stop for fast food, and they go home. And Jessica starts complaining. She has a terrible, terrible stomachache. So Rita calls the doctor for a house call. And I think it's around 9 something, 9:20 I think is when the doctor arrived at night at their house, and she stood outside the door for 10 minutes before they let her in, and she heard them having an argument. Now, Jessica had said she wanted more food. She was still hungry, even though she had said she had a stomachache. And they had eaten, enough, I assume. And the mother was telling her, no, you can't get more food. But she went and she got the phone and she called the fast food place. And the mother was trying to get the phone from her and get her to hang up. But Jessica became very busy in trying to get the worker on the phone to say that he loves her. Now, eventually the doctor came in and, quickly decided that there wasn't anything wrong with Jessica's stomach, and she left. Then the mother got on the phone with the sister, Christy, around 10, and had a long conversation. And then at some point prior to 11 p.m. that night, here is what transpired. The mother decided that Jessica's behavior had gotten extremely bad lately, and she was calling an ambulance to come and get her, for hospitalization, basically. Jessica had been hospitalized in the past, for short stays, but not institutionalized, if you know what I mean. Treated and sent back to her mother. So the mother really felt that, her behavior was getting worse and she needed some inpatient care. Now, Jessica was not having it because she did not want to go into the hospital. So she wrestled the phone away from her mother. Her mother ran stab her to death. And this part of the story can be very graphic, but I will not make it that way. If you're curious, you can definitely find all the details, but I know a lot of people do not want to hear that. So, she stabbed her using 7 different knives, kitchen knives, because 4 of them broke in the process. She stabbed her over 100 times and ultimately decapitated her. Then, after kind of exploring what she had done in some odd ways, she then took the head and the 2 phones and walked outside in her nightgown, or I think it was her nightgown from seeing the picture. She walked down the front path, she dropped the head. They know because of the bloodstains. She picked it up, she walked a little further, and she dropped it again. Then she left it there. She went to a neighbor, and at that point she used one of her phones to call what we would call 911, so their emergency services. And she gets the person on the phone. She tells them basically that she had gotten into a fight with her mother, and then she asks the neighbor to talk on the phone. She hands him the phone, and this guy is like not at all pleased to be involved. I mean, who would be, but I'm just saying. He is not wanting to be involved in this mess, and he's just like, okay, yeah, she came over here, yeah, she had a fight with her mother. No, I haven't been in the house. No, I am not going in the house. Because then, Jessica is saying, oh, there's a 4-year-old, there's a young child in the house. Can you come with me into the house? She says to the man. And he said, no, I can't do that. Anyway, she gets back on the phone with the 911, with the emergency services operator, and she tells them that she has killed her mother, and it was in self-defense, and that her mother had dragged her by the hair into the kitchen, and she thinks she killed her, and she has cut off her head. Anyway, finally the police show up. Now, I neglected to mention, so I'll add it now. In the midst of her attack on the mother, the little 4-year-old boy came out of where he was, the room that he was sleeping in, to see this horror. He grabbed the lid of like a toy box and started hitting Jessica with it. And so she just kind of flung back at him. She wound up slicing him across the face. He needed surgery. He was cut from his cheek up to his ear. He also had wounds on other parts of his body. He needed a bunch of stitches. So at this point, he just wandered into the living room but, it just happened. So, she was arrested. And she was examined by a psychologist or psychiatrist who found her to be very calm when she was interviewed. She was not at all upset or agitated or anything. And they felt that she would be able to understand the court proceedings, so long as somebody sat down and explained everything to her ahead of time, how it was going to work. And they felt that the best thing for her would be a trial without a jury, so just trial by the judge. But that was denied, so she had a full trial with a jury and everything. And it didn't take too long for them to decide that she was guilty of manslaughter, not murder. And the reason they chose manslaughter was due to her impairments. So she was not found to be, legally insane, meaning she knew what she was doing. She understood what she was doing. She knew where she was and who she was, and she didn't have a break with reality or anything. And, she was concerned afterwards about getting in trouble, so, She was sentenced to 21 years plus 7 months in prison, and her earliest chance to get out would be in 2035. There were some victim impact statements at the trial, and one of them was from her sister Christy, who talked about how she will never, ever forgive or forget. She talked about what a loving and wonderful mother Rita was. And Rita tried to do everything she could to help Jessica, and everyone in the family had offered Jessica a lot of help, but she had always refused it. She said that she told her 4-year-old son that Jessica is dead because he is very fearful of her, and it's better for him to think she is dead. And she is very upset that he will now be traumatized by this. So her entire family is done with her at this point. They all say, we don't care what happens to her whenever she gets out. If she ever gets out, we're not taking her. And it's been said that the only person who would have been there to help her in this kind of situation was Rita, and she had killed her. So she is completely alone. And by the way, she is or was trying to appeal this sentence. Now, since she's been in prison, things have not gotten any better regarding her behavior. Let's be real. She has attacked other prisoners on multiple occasions. Same old hair pulling. also assaulted two like prison officers, prison guards, same hair pulling stuff. But what are you gonna do? She's already in prison. I mean, it's kind of a really tough situation. I mean, she went to court for these assaults on the prison guards, and she told the judge that they hate her in prison and because of her disabilities, and she doesn't feel safe there, and people can get killed in prison. But she's not getting out of prison because of that. So that's pretty much the end of the case. What do you think? I mean, I think I've expressed my thoughts as we went along, but I am horrified by this story. This mother was trying her best to do what she thought was right for her daughter, keeping her out of institutions. But that didn't turn out to be the right thing, obviously. I'm amazed that she managed to, keep her at home for that long. Imagine what it was like to be Rita, taking care of her daughter for all those years. And at the time of the murder, So, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found it to be thought-provoking. I look forward to seeing